So now that you're in the system and you're starting to ask questions and understanding a little bit about your health, one of the first questions that I hear is, well, what do I eat? I get it now, but what am I supposed to eat? So let me go through with you specifically how I address this. The first is, these are action steps, practice for success. These are the foods to avoid, foods to keep on hand, smoothies, and quick meals. And this is a guideline that I like to use, especially in the beginning. Not every meal every day, but you'll slowly learn over time. The first thing, the foods to avoid the Frankenfoods, the ultra-processed foods, the deconstructed foods. These are foods that were changed from their original form and then made to look and taste like food. They are specifically engineered to be addictive. They are created in a lab in a way to make you an addict to the food that causes you to crave more and more and more. The potato chip, bet you can't just eat just one. They're specifically geared for that. So these are deconstructed. They no longer look like they originally did. Here's a Pop-Tart. So the easiest Pop-Tarts, there's nothing that looks like a Pop-Tart in nature. And the easiest way to know that you're supposed to avoid is look at the label. If you don't know what it is, if you can't pronounce it, don't consume it, right? Beef sausage crumbles. I don't even know why they're a brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tart. Pepperoni, sodium ascorbate, where does that grow, right? We have a BHA, propyl gallate, potassium sorbate. I don't know where these things are grown, and I don't know how to get sodium phosphate, right? So I don't eat sodium nitrate, cured. These are things that I would never have. High fructose corn syrup, a TBHQ. If there's one thing in the ingredient you don't recognize, you don't know where it's grown, do not eat it. This is a hard, fast rule for things that are food and aren't food. If you're looking for things that aren't food, eat this. If you're looking for things that are food, do not eat this. The second thing is foods to avoid, foods that grandma wouldn't know. If it wasn't able to be produced back in the day, like your grandmother's grandmother's grandmother back in the 1700s or so, don't eat it. They wouldn't have had fruit roll-ups or turkey and cheddar crackers or Teddy Grahams. I don't even know what half of this stuff, well, I know Hershey's bars, I know what those are. Smucker's Squeeze. So if your grandmother wouldn't recognize it, do not eat it. She'd recognize a turkey. She'd recognize arugula or an egg. She might not recognize something else, right? So anything on this list. Also, if it has a refined oil, do not eat it. These are harmful chemicals as well. Glyphosate, omega-6, inflammatory. Do not eat it if it has a refined oil. They might have other pesticides, herbicides. It might be inflammatory. So if you notice here, this is the entire shelf of salad dressings. Do not eat this. These are all the oils that I recommend. Do not eat. Watch the video on why olive oil is the only one we should be eating. But do not eat it if it has a refined oil. Do not. Also, high fructose corn syrup. It creates insulin resistance. It's inflammatory. Creates hypertension, weight gain. They are specifically marketed and geared toward kids to make an addicted customer for life. And if you look at this whole display here, these are all things with either high fructose corn syrup or have been fried in oil, and grandma wouldn't recognize these either, right? Additionally, foods to avoid. If it's advertised on TV, don't eat it. It's a high profit, high inflammatory food with no or very low nutritional value. If they start making broccoli commercials, you know what, the one commercial, they advertise the avocado. You can eat the avocado. Other than that, I don't recommend it's advertised on TV, especially when it's touted as a value meal, right? Additionally, if there's a health claim on a package, don't eat it. Health claims are usually used to confuse the consumer. It's natural. Made with real honey, made with real fruit. Or there's not a made with real fruit sticker on the apple. There's not a made with real on the honey package. It doesn't say made with real honey, it's just honey, right? Fat-free, I don't know why that should be healthy for you. Sugar-free, well, there shouldn't be sugar in it anyway, right? That's not a selling point. Immune support, if that's on a label, run, right? So if it's got a health claim on the package, avoid it. Also, avoid fast food restaurants, QSR, quick serve restaurants. They're typically restaurants that use the lowest quality foods with additives to create addiction. If I go to one of these places, if I go to Chipotle 2 days in a row, day 3 I'm craving it. If you watch the McDonald's movie Super Size Me, after a week he started to crave the McDonald's every single day. These foods are engineered to create an addiction within your brain, full stop. They want you to come back for more. So quick service restaurants, fast food, avoid them at all costs. Also, anything that has MSG and its derivatives. It promotes weight gain, metabolic disorders, and cardio and neuro, hepato, that's cardiac and nerve and liver toxicity. These are all different names of MSG. Autolyzed yeast extract, hydrolyzed oat flakes, textured vegetable protein, glutamate, natural flavor, soy protein, vegetable powder. These are all different forms of MSG. Avoid foods that have them in. Avoid artificial cheese. If it's not real cheese, you can't call it cheese. That's why these Kraft's American singles, cheddars, these are called slices. There's nowhere on here it says cheese. It says provolone style plant-based slice. American style. It's not cheese. Here, but it's organic. American singles. It's a pasteurized processed cheese product. It doesn't have enough cheese to be called cheese. If you're going to eat it, eat cheese. Don't eat an artificial thing. I typically recommend sheep or cheeses out of Europe are the best. And there's some other good ones in the United States as well. And I'm trying to think. Nonetheless, there are good cheeses around, but European and specifically sheep cheeses. Also, avoid conventionally raised animals. When you're eating an animal, you're eating concentrated bites of what the animal ate and experienced. I'm not so sure this pig has healthy meat coming out. Grass-fed, pasture, regenerative, these are things you want to look for. Also, artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners are linked to digestive disorders. They're linked to diabetes, headaches, weight gain, IBS, and even cancer, right? So these are artificial sweeteners like sugar-free maple syrup. We have 0-calorie sodas, gums, these packets. But also here we have artificial sweeteners in all sorts of things that we don't necessarily recognize as being artificially sweet. I'm going to point this out here, this nasal spray. Sometimes we will use this to clear out nasal infections because this artificial sweetener is toxic to bacteria. You eat it, it disrupts your gut microbiome. Right? Sometimes we need to use some things to disrupt the microbiome if it's for our health, but not on a regular basis. We shouldn't be using artificial sweeteners. Xylitol is, and NutraSweet, and Splenda's not so splendid. Right? We also want to avoid food dyes. These are used to make fake food look more appealing. They're linked to cancer, attention deficit, allergies, hypersensitivity, asthma, and hyperactivity. The pushback on it is, well, you have to eat so much of it to really make a difference as shown in the rat in the lab. Yeah, that's a rat in the lab in a controlled environment. I'm not a rat in the lab. I'm outside, but I'm also breathing in and eating plastic from bottles. I might be exposed to all sorts of toxicities and all sorts of things that the lab rat isn't. So I recommend avoiding food dyes. These are foods to keep on hand, right? So these, not avoiding, these you keep on hand. Frozen foods. These are picked at the height of ripeness. They have a high nutrient value and a high convenience value. A lot of times berries are frozen because they won't make it to market. A lot of times vegetables are frozen because they won't make it to market. Usually they're cut up already and prepared. You just have to put them in some steam or boiling water. I don't recommend boiling them in their plastic, or especially don't microwave them in their plastic, but they're usually very easy to reheat and use. And they have a high nutrient value. Sometimes the pushback is, well, it's not as nutrient dense as fresh. Well, if you got a fresh garden out back, eat that. But if you're eating food that's at the grocery store, it was picked weeks ago, unripe, and then ripened either through time or artificially before it got to you. So yes, fresh is better, but it's really hard to come by fresh. Frozen is a very, very good alternative, and it's super convenient, and it's always on hand. Also, keep canned foods on hand. They're used to make hearty meals quickly. Safe Catch yellowfin tuna, lowest mercury. The triple succotash, lima beans, corn, and tomatoes. Here's some organic cannellini beans. You can keep peas on hand, crushed tomatoes, all sorts of stuff you can use as a base for making food. I also like to use packaged and simmer sauces. Some Rao's sauce here, some lentil stew, some massaman curry sauce. That'll help to flavor up a bland meal. I also use lettuces as a base for my meal. So washed and ready lettuce. If I buy lettuce, I might not wash it and then throw it away. If it's in a box, it's easy to take out and put it right on. I'm a big fan of arugula. It's a cruciferous vegetable. The baby sweet lettuce is triple washed. What I like to get are combos of lettuces, so I'm eating a wider variety of things, a wider variety of vegetables. And then I also like to keep pasture-raised eggs, meats, and chicken on hand to be used as a protein source. Sometimes I'll bake in bulk and freeze in portions. This way I can defrost relatively quickly, and I'll show you how we do that in a moment. But these are some meatballs. I didn't make these, or this maybe some chicken, but I keep a lot of chicken on hand. Grass-raised, grass-finished pasture beef I'll keep on hand. Some fish. I don't eat a ton of fish, but some fish on hand. And this way I defrost it and eat it really quickly, throw in some simmer sauce, and I have a whole meal. I also keep organic broth on hand. I use it to quickly defrost foods on the stovetop. I also will use water too, but then I can use this, add a little bit of miso. Now I have a side of miso soup. So this brings me into the fermented foods. You want to keep fermented foods on hand. Take a bit or a bite at every meal for your gut. These are kosher dill pickles. These are made with a fermented process, not vinegar. Same thing, the wild brine. I do like this brand of cabbage. I don't really eat garlic so much anymore, but there's garlic in there. But a fermented food, a non-vinegar fermented food, keep on hand for your gut. And then seasoning and olive oil. You're going to use it for cooking. Keep spices on hand. You're going to use those for cooking and for making your own salad dressing. Make salad dressing. I take an old empty jar, pour in some olive oil, I pour in some vinegar. I just open the cabinet of spices, put a whole bunch of spices in. If you want it creamy, throw in some avocado or throw in some mustard, shake it up, and you have a dressing there. If you use the avocado, you should use it really all up at once. But if you use the mustard, leave it in the pantry. It'll stay for a long time. Right? And that's how I make my own salad dressing with extra virgin olive oil. So the proper food choices. Make meals that can be prepared in bulk. Be versatile. You can have dinner for breakfast or breakfast for dinner. Choose meals that can be served over a salad. Almost any meal can be served. I eat an omelet over a salad. I eat soup, I pour it over a salad. I just eat pour it over arugula. Soup, stews, snacks, smoothies, sides, these are all good choices. Tend toward meals that are quick or easily frozen, and then at first keep the recipes as simple as possible. Use your best available ingredients, but use whole ingredients when you can. So organic, non-GMO, minimally processed, grass-fed, pasture-raised, heirloom, regenerative, humanely treated, canned vegetables, frozen vegetables, simmer sauces, prepared meats that you prepared, like you cooked them and prepared them, not bought frozen meatballs from somewhere, broths and fermented foods. And now you have a standard base for what you can eat. So here's a smoothie. Right? So you can put berries and banana, green leafy vegetables. Excuse me, this one doesn't have greens in there, but usually it's very little berry, very little banana, very little strawberry, a lot of greens. Frozen ingredients work best, and then I put a scoop of the greens first in there. You can see that on the full script vitamins. I usually put some plant-based protein in there. I throw in a splash of pomegranate juice, usually a spoonful of fermented yogurt, sometimes sheep, sometimes coconut. And this is I throw in some walnuts, some hemp seed, throw in a little bit of a shot of olive oil. Hemp hearts are great in there. Other seeds work really well in there. Raw walnuts. This is Orgain Simple. We keep this in the house. We also use OWN, OWYN. Those are two relatively clean plant-based. You can get animal-based whey. I don't love whey just for myself or my gut, but whey works also. And plant-based is from nuts and seeds. Might be easier on sensitive stomachs. If you're sensitive to the nut, go with the OWN, OWYN, because Orgain Simple does have nuts in there. I'll use hemp protein as well. I don't like soy. Again, there are a lot of people that promote soy. I do eat edamame. I really eat a little bit of tofu. I will eat tempeh and miso, but I don't like ultra-processed soy products. Right? And then I throw in a phytonutrients, a greens or a reds. This is greens versus an old bottle. They've changed their label since then. But it provides essential phytonutrients for the gut that we typically lack in our normal diet, and there's some microbes in there to help the gut microbiome. And then taking a supplement, I'll put that in there as well. Like I mentioned, I put in some omega-3s in there. Sometimes I'll add a scoop of turmeric or some ginger, and I used to put my magnesium in there, but then I noticed it was making me tired, so I saved that for the nighttime. But that's for the smoothie. And then blend it and drink it. You can use water or coffee as your liquid. You can chew every sip, and chewing is good because it helps slow down the consumption because you're throwing a ton of food in the gut really quickly. So the chewing does help slow it down. It mixes the smoothie with the amylase in the mouth. It mimics the regular digestion, and it slows down the emptying into the stomach. This is a quick meal step. Get a saucepan or pot with a lid, and then broth or water. I usually place about 1 cup of liquid in the saucepan. I turn on the heat, and then I throw in any frozen meats that I had. It's either my frozen chicken or my frozen meatballs or anything that I've already cooked in bulk. You can add in frozen vegetables if you'd like, add in some canned beans, whatever it is you want to throw in there. Of course, the vegetables, I usually dump out their water, I rinse them, and then pour it in here. You can take that out, mix up some simmering sauce. What I usually do is after the meat is defrosted, I'll take that out, put that into a separate saucepan with some of the vegetables and the simmering sauce, let that simmer. But I keep the water that was behind, or the broth that was behind, I add a little bit of miso. Now I have a side of miso soup, which is a fermented soup. I then place a couple handfuls of lettuce in a bowl, and then I remove everything from the saucepan, and then I put the meal right on top of the lettuce. This isn't my meal, it's a sample of the meal because the lettuce is on top, but the lettuce underneath, and that's how I do it. It's an easy way to make the meal go longer because there's a lot of lettuce in there. And that's really a simple way to begin to start to experiment. You can use the bodyyouser.com to start looking for some recipes and some other things to do, but this is a simple way to begin to understand how to eat. Good luck going forward.